In times past, Western companies were the kings of the car making game, but now Chinese companies have totally surprised everyone, even the big players, by becoming the top car exporters in the world. And now they have a shot at dominating the electric vehicle market too, which could seriously shake things up in global trade. Now, what does all this recent development mean for the automobile sector and the global economy? And what kind of challenges will China face as it takes the driver's seat in the world of car manufacturing? Don't worry, we've got you covered on the answers to these questions. In this video, we're going to deep dive into these juicy topics and figure out all there is to China's ongoing automobile expansion scheme. But first, welcome to our awesome channel, where we'll dish out the latest and hottest news in the global economy scene. Whenever you're ready, let's jump right into it. Now, China is a major player in the global economy, no doubt about it. They come second only to the United States when it comes to gross domestic product value, and at the beginning of 2023, their GDP growth was expected to reach 5.6%. Unfortunately, China's economy has recorded some bumps along the way since April in its GDP growth, revealing how delicate and reliant on policy support their economy is. Nonetheless, China has also shown resilience in terms of capital spending on infrastructure and manufacturing, which is expected to drive the rebound of their economic activities in no time. Now, speaking of this capital spending, we can see its effect in the current state of the electric car market in China. Frankly speaking, it's been on fire lately. It's like a beehive buzzing with energy, ready to spread its wings. China's electric car market has become so prominent now that even Chinese car makers have become very interested in expanding and conquering new markets outside their borders. But here's the thing, many countries, including the US and some European nations, aren't exactly thrilled or warming up to the idea of Chinese electric cars hitting their roads. So there's been a lukewarm reception to the idea of this expansion for a couple of reasons. The first is that Chinese cars flooding the international market will complicate trade by creating an issue of security. These new cars that China wants to unleash on other countries come equipped with all sorts of fancy sensors, complex software systems, and even semi-autonomous features. But the thing is, Western leaders are still wrapping their head around these technologies. So many countries don't have the capabilities to effectively handle the security risks that come with having fleets of foreign-made, sensor-packed cars cruising on their roads. It's not that these countries are against the idea of Chinese cars. It's more about making sure they can ensure the safety of their citizens who might want to drive these cars. And if we're being factual, even China itself hasn't made it easy for these countries to embrace their advancements. Beijing recently slapped Tesla with strict localization rules, despite China being Tesla's biggest market, and they've even banned Tesla cars from being driven in certain sensitive locations, like China's military complexes and the government's summer retreat. Italy recently proved the fact that the auto industry isn't fully prepared to tackle the security concerns posed by Chinese cars when the government decided to limit the influence of a Chinese shareholder in Pirelli, a major Italian tyre manufacturer. The Italian government, while possibly motivated partly by protectionism, made a good point in justifying their decision. Pirelli already had its own advanced cyber tyres, which collects and transmits driving data, so they didn't see a need for China's influence in the company anymore, which could have potentially disrupted the way things worked and brought new concerns the government wasn't well equipped to handle. Better the devil you know than you don't, apparently. Now, let's talk about the second challenge for Europe's industrial base caused by Chinese cars. Traditional car makers, especially those targeting the middle market where price matters, are beginning to face some fierce competition because of China's electric cars. These cars mainly rely on parts sourced from Asia, not Europe, and with a flood of Chinese car imports hitting the scene, it will cause a tough situation for many European businesses that supply car parts and manufacture cars. Sure, if we have to give credit where it's due, Chinese electric vehicles, or EVs, are actually pretty impressive in terms of quality. But let's not forget that they've also had a nice boost from protectionism and generous government support, pocketing billions of dollars every year. Now, even though Western car companies, on the other hand, may be used to bailouts and even government ownership, the level of support China's electric vehicle industry receives is on a whole other level. It's enough to put these other countries to shame. With this, you can see why it's not surprising that European countries aren't rolling out the red carpet for China's cars. Historically, governments have always been hesitant to let their own companies lose their market share in the auto industry. Back in the 70s and 80s, when Japanese cars became a hit amongst US consumers, it caused quite a stir. Threats of tariffs and currency disputes flew around, and American auto workers even took to bashing Japanese cars in public with baseball bats. The tension only eased up when Japanese companies started building factories in the US, giving American auto workers a chance to benefit from the trade. Now, the US isn't resorting to bashing Chinese cars, but they're taking a page from China's playbook to keep their market in check. During the Trump era, they slapped a whopping 27.5% tariff on all Chinese vehicle imports. And now, with Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, they're dishing out subsidies for electric vehicles that meet specific local requirements. With these tariffs and subsidies in play, Chinese companies just can't compete in the US market. Still, the kicker is that despite escalating tensions between the European countries and China's car market, Europe's car market is still wide open to imports thanks to subsidies that have been made available in the continent. Some of it is because Chinese cars are cheaper, and some of it is because European automakers have been a tad slow in coming up with their own competitive vehicles. Now, there is a big debate going on about whether this approach is really the best for European nations. Take German automakers, for example. They're not fans of protectionism because they fear Beijing might hit back by limiting their access to the gigantic Chinese market. On the flip side, France recently dropped news of environmental rules that practically guarantee certain electric vehicle subsidies that will only apply to cars made in Europe. Some French politicians even want to launch investigations into dumping practices and may even slap on some tariffs. And to add fuel to the fire, there's news that Chinese vehicle makers are now dealing with overcapacity at home. NIO, one of China's top electrical vehicle startups, slashed its prices by about $4,200 per car in June due to the weak demand in their own country. Now, if China sticks to its usual playbook, they might try to unload the excess supply by ramping up cut-price exports. That's when the trade game will get seriously interesting, because car parts and finished vehicles alone generate a jaw-dropping $1 trillion in annual trade. And this value will definitely be affected if China's gigantic market decides to take that route. Let's also not forget about semiconductors, another sector that has been tangled up in its fair share of disputes lately. Your average electric vehicle relies on over $1,000 worth of those tiny chips. Most of them, the ones that handle the vehicle's power supply, are made by Western companies. So if Chinese cars are locked out of foreign markets, will they still get to use those foreign chips? These are the implications the world's economy has to deal with at the moment due to China's impending takeover of the global car market. And that's a wrap on the escalating global tensions China has created with its recent car market growth. We've covered all the nitty-gritty details in this video, and we really hope you had a blast diving into the juicy stuff with us. We're super excited to hear your thoughts on the matter, so drop a comment down below and let us know what's on your mind. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And hey, if you want to stay in the loop with more awesome content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on any of the thrilling updates we'll bring you on the ever-evolving global economy. Stick around, stay informed, and until next time, take care.